Madison Parker stood quietly by the tool bench, holding a steaming cup of coffee in one hand and a wrench in the other. It was 7:15 a.m. at the elite Luxspeed Auto Garage in Austin, Texas, a place where only exotic supercars were allowed inside. Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and even rare Bugattis were routine here. But Madison, she wasn't. To the rest of the crew, she was just the coffee girl. "Hey, Madison," barked Rick, the senior mechanic. "You forgot sugar in mine again." She forced a smile and handed him the cup. What they didn't know, or didn't care to know, was that Madison was finishing her mechanical engineering degree at night. She worked full-time, studied until 2 a.m., and repeated the grind every day. But none of that mattered, not to them. That morning everything changed. A stunning McLaren 720S, wrapped in deep graphite black with burnt orange trim, rolled into the garage. The engine made a sharp rattle when idling, and the air in the shop suddenly shifted. The car belonged to Grant Harrison, a tech billionaire known for firing vendors over minor faults. Everyone in the shop went stiff. "All right, no mistakes," Rick warned. "Nobody touches this thing unless I say so." Hours passed. One by one, the mechanics tried diagnosing the rattle. They hooked up scanners, ran tests, and tightened visible bolts. Nothing worked. Meanwhile, Madison stayed quiet, pretending to organize tools, but secretly watching every move. She recognized the sound. Late last night, she had read about a rare engine vibration issue in that exact model. A flaw caused by a loose valve under the intake manifold, nearly impossible to detect. When Rick stormed off in frustration, yelling that it wasn't worth risking his job, Madison stepped forward. "Can I try something?" she asked softly. The entire garage burst into chuckles. "You? This isn't a coffee machine, sweetheart," one mechanic mocked. "She probably wants to vacuum the engine," another joked. Ignoring them, Madison grabbed a thin torque wrench and slid under the hood. Her fingers moved quickly but carefully. Within minutes, she reached the exact spot she had read about. She tightened a hidden bolt, just enough to hold the valve in place. "Try it now," she said. A junior tech turned the ignition. The McLaren came to life, smooth, flawless, and without a single rattle. The laughter stopped. Madison wiped her hands, heart pounding. Just then, a sleek black Mercedes pulled up. Grant Harrison stepped out, wearing sunglasses and a sharp navy suit. He walked toward the McLaren, paused, and raised an eyebrow. "Who fixed it?" No one spoke. Then, reluctantly, Rick pointed at Madison. Grant turned to her, lowering his sunglasses slightly. "You." Madison nodded, unsure what was coming next. His lips curled into the faintest smile. "You?" Madison nodded, wiping a smudge of oil from her cheek. She could feel everyone's eyes burning into her. The girl who fetched coffee, sorted tools, and kept quiet had just fixed $1 million McLaren. Grant Harrison, the CEO of Hyperflux Technologies, circled the car slowly, listening. The engine purred perfectly. No rattle, no drag, nothing but flawless sound. He turned to Rick. "Your mechanics couldn't fix this." Rick hesitated, sweat forming on his brow. "Well, sir, the issue was complicated." Grant raised an eyebrow, but she fixed it. Silence. "Yes," Madison said softly. "It was a loose valve underneath the intake manifold. I read about a similar case online last night." Grant studied her. "You read about it?" She nodded. "I'm finishing a mechanical engineering degree. I just don't get a lot of chances here." He looked around the garage. Half the mechanics looked down, the other half looked like they'd seen a ghost. "Interesting," Grant said. Then he pulled out his phone, tapped something, and called over his driver. "Have someone take this to my place," he said, pointing at the McLaren. "And send the footage from the security cams here to my office. I want to see how this fix happened." The mechanics shifted uncomfortably. They knew what that meant. Grant turned back to Madison. "You know, I run a division focused on performance racing tech. We're building an electric hypercar that needs brilliant minds, not arrogant ones." Madison blinked, unsure if she was dreaming. "I want you to come in for an interview tomorrow," he continued. "Lead mechanic. Full pay. Full respect. We don't waste talent." She stood there, stunned. I don't even know what to say. Just say yes, Grant said with a grin, and maybe grab me a coffee while we talk. Madison laughed, the first real laugh she'd had in weeks. The next day, she walked into Hyperflux's R&D facility, where white walls, electric prototypes, and focused minds filled the halls. Her interview turned into a tour, then an offer. Not just a job, a future. Back at Luckspeed, the news spread fast. Some mechanics were fired, Rick was demoted, and the girl they once mocked for being just the coffee girl had become someone they now talked about in hushed tones. Weeks later, Madison returned to Luckspeed, not for a job, but to pick up tools she had left behind. Rick barely met her eyes, but she walked with her head high, greeted the junior techs kindly, and left with grace. Outside, a Hyperflux prototype waited, and Grant himself was in the passenger seat. "You ready for the big leagues?" he asked as she climbed in. Madison smiled, fired up the engine, and whispered, "I was born ready."